Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast, week 7 of COVID-19. Joined by Michael Yahkind. Is that right?
Close enough. Close enough.
Go on, give me it. How do you say it?
I mean, the English way of saying is Yahkind, like yeah and kind. The real way of saying is Yahkind, but that's way too tough. So yeah.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
So you're in Chicago, is that right?
Yes, sir. Downtown Chicago.
Downtown Chicago. Any kids to worry about in this epidemic? Or is it just you?
Thank God. No, it's just me and my girlfriend living in a small apartment downtown. So.
And getting on all right with her still?
She's working from home as well. So it's a little difficult, right?
You on the phone, her trying to concentrate?
Yeah. I noticed myself walking out on the balcony way more. I'll just say that. So no, I mean, but we're fine. Look, if I didn't have her and I was just stuck in this apartment alone, I'd probably go crazy. So
yeah. Can you imagine if it wasn't COVID-19, how busy Chicago would be now with the release of The Last Dance?
Crazy busy.
Everybody's obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Have you watched it?
I haven't even watched it, but I know that everyone's talking about it. Yeah. Is it good?
I have to watch a bit of it just before I start work in the morning to keep me pumped. It's he just had the ultimate spirit. It's just amazing.
It's interesting how many shows started taking place in Chicago. Like this didn't happen when I moved here.
What other good ones are there?
Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Shameless. Basically they want anything that's not in New York and they want a really big city. It happens to be Chicago. Yeah. It's like an everyman city. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't been. It's on the list. We were in California whenever the COVID thing started.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was picking out my dream house. I was making money. Everything was fine. Oh my God. How hard the things get so quick.
It's crazy, right? I couldn't believe, I thought people like Ebola, right? I thought SARS, I thought people were going to be blowing this out of, and I was one of those that are like, it's not going to be as bad as they say. And then March hit and we got like lockdown orders. And I'm like, oh shit, this is like a movie,
Yeah.
This is like nothing we've never seen. So
yeah, it's been rough. I had a 20 grand back out today. I was like, client changed something, probably rightfully so, nothing I could have control over. Like, it's just we're in a different environment for offers that were made before. Like, it's tough, like I've trained my team and they're fair weathered. Like, I mean, they've had it easy, it's been cushy, and I'm like, guys, I need more. Like, if we're to get through this, I need more because it's not as easy as it was. It was great before.
It was the best of my career before this, right before this.
Yeah.
January, February of this year, I've never seen, at least here in Chicago, the market be as good, right?
Oh, sure. Our friend Ben was taking window cleaners and teaching them how to be recruiters.
That's right.
That's when you know you're at the top of the market, when somebody can set up a Facebook group and teach window cleaners how to bill a couple of $100K.
That's right.
Like, maybe we needed
it's funny you say that though, because I've hired people with staffing experience and people without, and one of my best recruiters to date was a cleaning lady before she started.
Oh, 100%. There's clear reasons for that.
In terms of her being good, you're saying?
Yeah, as opposed to somebody with staffing experience, it's very hard to, like, so say if you take somebody from a big firm like Kforce who you work with, it's very hard to take somebody from there into a one-man band or a two-man band because the phone doesn't ring and there isn't as much structure. There isn't as much. There isn't as much energy. So how does that person adjust from what they had?
That's
And
fair.
it's really
Fair.
tough. So you either have to catch them at the start of their career, or maybe after they've had an American expression, had a bath somewhere else on somebody else's dime. It's tricky staffing
You know, also with like us, me and you, right? Every hire is so important.
Mm,
Whereas like K-Force, and I believe you worked in big box staffing
yeah,
firm as well, Walters, right?
yeah.
Uh, they specifically churn and burn, right? It's
One in
survival.
three. One in three can survive in the first 18 months, first
Exactly.
year, no problem. Because they know the middle line is going to be all right. Like, and that's good if you can get to that scale, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to hire that many people, I mean that's fantastic. But the boutique agencies, we invest a lot into each person that we hire, right? So
It's it is, and and right now it's tricky because people were hired into an easy market. So a lot of people have, like, so Robert Half let go of 1,000 people in America last week.
yeah,
A thousand recruiters, like that's, for me, that's bonkers. But if you look into it, were large part of those recruiters, they were never told to go out there and hunt and sell. Like, it's a large part of, like, the accounts are there, the systems there, the process is there. You're doing a lot of farming, and Robert Half is very different in different countries. So in Australia or in the UK, you'll find that they're 360 and they're very business development heavy, and you get these amazing killers from there. But mostly in America, they're candidate resources. From what
no,
I've
no,
heard,
you're right.
you know.
I mean, their name is so big, and I don't know if it's the same way in other countries, but here, the finance space, they run it. Like it doesn't matter where in the finance space, but if you look at any of the big banks, they're all Robert Half users.
Big
So
time. There's one in every corner. Um, so yeah, I couldn't believe that. So your technology, you're
yes, sir.
across a couple of cities. Give me a kind of rundown on the cities that you're recruiting into, and like give me the overall temperature for what you're seeing right now in this market.
Chicago and New York are my primary.
Okay.
We've hit various towns in Texas, and actually recently Nevada as well. But I want to say over 70% of my business is Chicago and New York. So, um,
How bad
and
is it?
it was bad. It's still bad, but the initial shock was real
Yeah.
bad, and we've seen something interesting that I've never seen in my career. Is that they are still interviewing a lot of times, but they're just not moving forward with offers, right?
Yeah.
They kind of just like hold it off, and I think that's because everyone's very unsure of their budgets right now, right? So you usually make your budget the previous fiscal quarter, previous fiscal year, right? Um, a lot of those budgets, especially for the type of positions we fill, have been thrown out the window
Mm.
because you know.
The bursary loans that came out should actually help on that for large companies, though, right? The ones where you're required to hire somebody from it or keep somebody employed.
You're talking about the PPP,
Yeah.
the personal. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be incentive for them to keep people employed, but I mean, budgets are still going down because people aren't spending, right? When I think there's last month there was like over 20,000 layoffs in the states, right? It's the worst it's been since the 1930s. Um, and I'm saying 20,000 in my market, in Chicago market, and it's it, people are even if you're not in the PPP program, people are not spending like they would. Like, for example, somebody wants to go on the cloud, right? That's a typical project we would take on. They're hybrid right now and they want to go on the cloud. That's a nice to have. That's a sexy thing to do,
Mm.
but it's not a must have. They could still run shop without it. And a lot of the roles we fill are like icing on the cake, right? It's like nice, innovative technology, but it's not like they can still run operations without it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's it's a different reality.
Yeah.
What uh, what are you hearing from other recruiters?
So we actually belong. Are you familiar with NPA?
So do you know what? We've signed up for a couple of for a trial with them.
They're
So
fantastic.
for anybody who's listening, it's a split placement network.
Yeah, and there's a few. There's Top Echelon. There's a few, right? But NPA, since you signed up, you know that they have a pretty strict vetting process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And thank God we did. I actually met a lot of international recruiters via NPA, and that's been keeping us alive as well. We've been working international roles, but we partner with a firm right now, thank God, that is working on medtech, medical
Mm.
IT. And the FDA used to have strict regulations on how many like pumps and ventilators were coming out before this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're just mass produced. People are they can't produce them fast enough. So the one I said sector that we've seen blow up are like essentially embedded engineers. It's like C++ C guys that are working on embedded systems within these medical devices.
Okay. So
And that's
you're
not our niche at all, but we've quickly learned. So
so that's helped you pivot.
yeah, yeah. So that part of the industry has done very well. Obviously, healthcare has done very well in this.
Yeah.
Um, but there's parts of the industry that have done much worse than IT. Hospitality, if you look at those guys, they're, ooh, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Um, what? So today we got some news out of Boris. I don't know if you've heard any of it. Did you?
yeah, yeah. It was very confusing to me. I was going to ask you about it. Um, be aware, but can you explain what he? Uh,
Yeah. Well, so they followed up with a few extra things today. So the biggest thing for us as recruiters is what's happening with the furlough scheme. So the furlough scheme is there to avoid the redundancies.
sure.
It's not like America where we just shoot everybody. You know, we have this thing called the safety net here. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing called the
Healthcare.
NHS, which
Yeah.
makes sure that people don't lose their ability to get healthcare when they lose their jobs. So
Yeah.
there's not wide panic here. Like it feels like a lot of people are on holidays, to be honest. Uh,
Yeah.
the so so essentially they've said we're going to keep that going until October, and that what that tells me is offices aren't opening till October.
Till
So
October.
so now we have to be so now we're in a position where we're like, okay, our company's going to adjust and onboard people remotely, because if they
Now, is
don't,
this England or is this
this is
London?
England.
England.
This is England. UK.
You.
England. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, because the Irish aren't big fans of you guys these days, my understanding. But yeah,
Well, I'm Irish, so it's
are you?
yeah.
Actually, I knew that. Big Irish population in England, but my understanding is that they still want to be part of the EU, right? And you guys,
Well, Ireland are part of the EU, so we're
yeah,
separate company, separate country.
yeah,
But we're not going to get into the political north-south
yeah,
divide.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah,
yeah.
that's good.
They're
That could go
wrong.
on.
I'm right.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all you need to know.
yeah.
But but yeah. So essentially, we're all kind of waiting to see how companies react now. It's relatively shaky times. There's thousands of recruiters who are furloughed in the UK, and
Now, is this across all industries too?
across all industries.
Okay.
Yeah, and so companies are still interviewing. So they're kind of saying to me like, I'll if you get somebody who's better than what I have, who's furloughed, I'll interview them, because we all have to be proactive now. But as you said, are they actually going to pull the trigger? That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And predicting your revenue based on that, that's pretty scary. But
Rough.
they've come out and given every company a loan of 50K who has a turnover over 200K, which doesn't have to be based for or paid back for at least 12 months. And then after that, the interest rate's pretty low. So the government has pulled out a lot of stops to help us. It's just getting people back to work, which is which is the worry. Um, when let me ask you a question. So
Yeah.
before this, what was your plan for your company, and how has that changed since then?
We were scaling like crazy. We we're actually interviewing 5 new recruiters to bring on. We were predicting big things for this year. The space that we work in, blockchain, fintech, and machine learning, and they call it AI, but
Yeah,
realistically, most AI is ML now. Um, a lot of what they call innovation investment was supposed to happen this year, right? Autonomous driving. We were working on machine learning projects for that,
mm,
and this was supposed to be a huge year for us, right? I don't know if you follow the crypto world at all, but today a big thing happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum in July. They're making E2, and weirdly enough, this is going to be affecting institutional finance companies and institutional companies as a whole, because a lot of them are, they base their blockchain programs off Ethereum's, right? So we were expecting mass hiring within the blockchain space, especially since it's becoming normalized within other industries now. Corona hit, and people's innovation budgets went out the window. It's more who do we need to keep, right? Instead of who do we need to bring on, right? So
so you hit your
um,
budgets, had a look at what your projected income is.
yeah, as a company,
Yeah.
or yeah, so I myself have stopped primarily paying myself and reinvested it into the company, right? We have a lot of people that are working 4 days a week instead of 5, so that they can take a pay cut, right? I mean, my recruiters understand what's going on. They've been pretty good to me about it, right? But it's been a challenge. It's been a
Mm,
challenge. Uh, if it wasn't for these creative outlets, right, and if we relied on our old model, we'd be out by now. We'd be out of business. So
wow. Well, were you quite extended with large office place, or?
yeah, well, right now everyone's remote, but we had an office that we were building, and we were going to make it. It was an old maintenance shop, and we were going to make it into an office, right?
Oh,
And then this had no longer. If you Google my location right now, it looks like a abandoned building, right? Um, because we have no idea. In Chicago, lockdown is mandatory, so
yeah.
I could go to jail if I'm sending people to work, right? So
So how long do you think before Chicago comes out of this, and how badly affected is the city?
the numbers in the city aren't that bad. It's certain parts of the city. The south side got affected much worse than the north side, but in comparison to other cities, Detroit, New York, the early part, Seattle, Chicago hasn't been hit that bad.
Mm.
But we have very strict measures in place because we are, after New York, the second most densely populated. We're not the second biggest. LA is the biggest, but second most densely populated city. Um, so it's really tough to tell you. We're getting conflicting messages from the federal government than we are on the state levels. I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the South, Florida, Texas, they're back open now. They're back up for shops. So who knows? You know, um, and they might be an example like Sweden where they're able to operate still. Um,
Yeah, the the Swedish model interests me.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's herd immunity, right?
yeah. I mean, so Britain were going to do it, and then
Yeah,
they went,
I
"Oh
remember.
no, wait, actually, this is bad for politics." But by that stage, it was too late. So then they decided to lock down, and then they kind of half-assed that, and then they half-assed opening up. So really, they're going to get herd immunity. They're just going to get it at at different stages, and it's
Yeah,
it's playing politics where Sweden were just a bit more like.
let's go
But,
for it.
but the thing is, like, so I was listening to Joe Rogan and Elon Musk there, and
Great episode, by the way.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
The first hour is a bit mind blowing. Like you're there going, this guy is just he can be hard to listen to. Joe's such a great interviewer. He carries him a lot, and he gets the best out of him. He's talking mad stuff.
I think he was also very careful on what. I don't know if you saw the first time he appeared on the podcast. Yeah, when he, so there, ever since then, his people were probably like, HR people are like, don't say anything controversial, like,
Yeah, well, he said, like, I mean, human language could be gone in 15 years or something, or that. But one of the things that he was saying with Joe on it is, imagine if we had to put the same amount of effort into protecting the vulnerable as we did in locking down the many. And
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I agree with you. No, you're right.
I agree with him. Yeah, of course.
And then he said, and then he went a step further and said, like, it's an American liberty to have freedom, and they're restricting that, so I'm against it. And if you don't like it, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, great. And it's hard now, right? See, if you voice an opinion that's contrary to, like, this is like the government's told us this, you're a bad person because you don't want a lockdown. You're
100% right.
You're demonized as a bad person, and
we can't even have the argument anymore. Guys like, I don't know if you've heard of David Katz. He appeared on Bill Maher, but he's a pretty renowned doctor, right? And there's 2 doctors in California as well that were analyzing this and saying it's been since November. And these guys, the only places they're getting, they're not like conservative crazy. They're not like right-wing guys. They're just doctors, right? And the only place that is giving them airtime is Fox News, which is crazy. We should agree or disagree. There should be some kind of dialogue on how we handle it. It shouldn't be lockdown or nothing, right?
But American media is terrible. Like, so Fox News is a joke, but so is CNN, and so is MSNBC. Like,
it turned into sports. They all play for their team,
Yeah, but that's why, like, you get Joe Rogan, and some people say he's a bit right. I don't really agree with that. Like he's a bit right of center. I think he would call himself
libertarian.
Libertarian, doesn't he?
But he supported Bernie Sanders, right?
He gave him the kiss. He gave him the kiss of death. They said.
No, I think he's the one thing I really like about Joe, not to get too much off topic, but he is open to diversity of thought. He will have, super right-wing people, super left-wing people. He'll have members of like the NRA, and then he'll have like Green Party people on his show, and it's
everybody.
Yeah.
All he wants to talk about is doing ayahuasca with him.
Yeah. Or those isolation tanks.
Yeah, he's unreal. Just to go back to topics. So, like, it's been a challenge for us all. You were on a real strong trajectory before it, and you've had to revise things. Have you sought advice in how you can restructure and plan for the next stage, or are you just dealing with it by yourself?
So I'm under the opinion that nobody has advice right now, because we've never seen something like this before, right? So some firms got lucky and they were focusing on, like med tech, like I said, or some kind of industry that didn't get hit. But in my opinion, just like a lot of the doctors are getting a lot of the information wrong, people that could pretend to know what the market's going to be like, even right now, it's impossible. It's impossible to say what the market's going to be like. So I consider myself or yourself as much of an expert as anybody else right now. And I think, everyone's avenue, our avenue has been creativity, right? Trying to be creative with the resources that we have, but everyone's avenue could be different, right? And if you look at the big box firms who supposedly should be doing great, they're laying off more people than anybody, right? So,
What do you see on the other side? Are you even looking that far?
On the other side, after Corona, meaning?
Yeah, when when America reemerges from the ashes
Yeah,
on the victory of Donald's second term.
yeah. uh, so interesting question that I've been thinking myself, right? Because people they've been saying it's going to be a V model, a W model, a U model, and I don't
Yep,
know if you're familiar with it.
I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that there's going to be reinvestment in. I'm going to be talking specifically about technology right now.
Okay.
Um, Reinvestment in certain types of tech, and a lot of that because, like it or not, remote work is going to be more prevalent now, right? Even
Yep.
after this, right? Now that people have figured out how to work remotely, it's going to be a norm at many jobs, right? Um, I think decentralization, technologies that are able to decentralize the workforce are going to be exploding. And I think those kind of development positions are going to be exploding too, right? Um, Other forms of IT, I think, are going to take a little bit of a backstage to that and to cybersecurity. I think cybersecurity is going to be a big thing because it's a lot easier when everybody's in an office, right? Than it is when people are remote and for somebody to a hacker to intrude. Um, I don't know about the UK, but the US has saw like a 60% rise in phishing attacks in the last 2 months, right? Yeah, um, which is scary. And if you're not a super tech savvy person working remotely right now, you're an easy target. So
So does that mean that you've got your certain areas that you're planning to build on
yeah,
the outside of this?
yep. So we even before this, we were in talks with a recruiter who heavily focused on pen testers and CISOs and the cybersecurity type, right? Um, we are going to be giving him a lot more resources in terms of uh, getting him subscription to like different platforms and uh, uh, essentially enabling him to do what he wants more because we see a heavy investment in cybersecurity. And this guy comes from a cybersecurity background, which I don't know if you've ever recruited in this space, but they are
Yeah.
very, you have? Yeah. They're very hesitant to talk to anybody who doesn't know what they're talking about, right? Because if like a junior recruiter was to call them and confuse them for a help desk person, which happens all the time, these guys get very, very offended, right? So we're definitely looking to build up that side of the business.
All right, Mike. Well, I wish you the best for the future. Let's get you back on, and we'll have a good old chat when you're kicking some goals again, and you can just see where the future lies. And I can get over and get on the beer in Chicago and get to
Yeah, I love
entertain
that.
all those wonderful things.
Yeah. Well, London and Chicago have direct flights, so
You know, I do some business in Chicago, so I really want to get over. I've moved UK recruiters over there to date, but I've never worked like locally to locally. So that's as soon as America opens up, our business is pivoting from moving UK recruiters to mo- moving people within America. You know, so
question for you, real quick. The UK recruiter, how was it for them in America? Uh, is it the market's different, right? And is it easier for them when they move over here, or is there a culture shock of any sort?
it's definitely easier. Um, it's easier because the company has them visa tied, so they have to if they want to stay, they stay with that company, so they get longevity with one company. So whereas if somebody has a bad day in their home country, like I've been visa tied in Australia, and you can't quit, like because you
Was that when
can't
you were a bean farmer?
you can't just move to you can't well if you move to another firm, you have to go the
Yeah,
whole way back, do your visa stuff again and go out. So that's one thing, like you tend to stay
interesting.
at one firm. The other is
You're
that
talking about like the H1 process, kind of, right?
yeah,
Or
it's an E2, it's called.
you
um
too?
But the other bit is the market isn't as competitive in America as it is in the UK. So if you look at the size of your market and the amount of recruiters, it's nothing compared to the
You guys
size.
are so much more saturated. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Uh,
heard that.
Also, there's a culture of independent recruiters and boutique recruitment firms in America. In the UK, there's a culture of scalable recruitment firms all beside each other, all competing.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's much it's just a more densely populated profession, really. Um, so it
We
is
even have
tougher.
a lot of firms, British firms here in Chicago. Michael Page, I believe, is a British firm, right? You guys, I do have to give kudos to British recruiters. I think that you guys, a lot of innovation in the staffing space starts in the UK. I was hearing about RPO, right?
Yeah,
Recruitment Process Outsourcing, from British firms much sooner than I was hearing it from American box shops. So
yeah, but I think the best internal recruiters in the world are in America. Um,
internal, the
yeah,
corporate you're talking about.
yeah. Their most talented recruiters seem to go internal, or they own their own agencies. But that's a topic for another day. I need to go because I'm
All
going to get divorced. I've put these two kids to bed.
right.
Great
Okay.
chatting to you.